darkly reprehensible representation of Victorian London, Griftwood's haunting phantasmagoria showcases a murderous metropolis whose fog-laden streets and blood-soaked alleyways are but the silver lining for a sickly society where proletariat are enslaved and the orphans fodder for the death maw of industry. The Draculaic and the Lacanic thrive and breed in its dismal lit undergrowths, while the lords and ladies practice far worse magic in their stark, judgmental abodes, leering above.
Gravekeepers come and go. Funereal arts, both blasphemous and pious. Heresy and holy at once. Desecration as self-gratification. Science the same as nature is prodded and pricked. Spilling loose her secrets in necromantic wiles. As a final insult to dying god, far gone and watching in sick voyeuristic satisfaction, as Gaia suffers the same.
Have thou learned naught from the Black Death? Perhaps an inferno next to cleanse this cancer of a city. This necropolis romanticized, these smokestacks breathing black grit into the lungs of the world.
This empire is fit not but for ghouls and the worst of us.
Welcome to Griftwood. We'll begin our tour at the airport. Here is the entrance of Griftwood. I wanted this entrance to be kind of like a scary forest with a path intertwining, and you don't know where the path is going to lead you. I left it kind of simple and almost a little neutral with just some street lamps and candles. If you walk left, you'll enter the graveyard. I wanted to make this area look pretty abandoned, but also elegant, so I added in some statues, some white roses, and in the back is actually the museum building that I covered up with castle walls and ruins items. Lucky lives in this section, and he's the graveyard keeper. So we have a creepy, winding road leading up to his house and lots of tools and trees.
Deformed since birth, Lucky has never been fortunate. Not in friendship, not in love. It wasn't until he took a job as a gravekeeper did he find his true purpose and his passion. In fact, with the recent murders of numerous lonesome women of the night, Lucky has never felt more happy in his life. No family to attend the funerals means his time with the immaculate, snow-white corpses is uninterrupted. He thanks his lucky stars. They even have extra owls.
Now we're going to walk behind Lucky's house into the next section. This is the campsite and where Rodeo lives. This campsite area is meant to be a sacrificing area, so we have lots of candles and a really creepy road leading up to it. I wanted to make it very eerie and mysterious, so the candles and all the trees around it really helps add that vibe. On the beach, we have these creepy dolls doing another sacrifice. The peninsula just carries through with that road and lots of trees. Behind the peninsula is kind of a memorial area with candles and a gravestone. Now we're back at the entrance of the campsite and we're going to Rodeo's house.
Rodeo is a theologian obsessed with justifying the most horrible passages in the Old Testament, from Leviticus 20:18 to Leviticus 21:9. His upstart cult, which meets under lunar full midnights at the lowest levels of the Griftwood mausoleum, has no problem sacrificing anyone named as opposition to God, which, if going by Rodeo's version of the Bible, is anyone except a wickedly pious man.
Up this flight of stairs is Rattle's Asylum.
Rattle is a scientist, of sorts. He's currently unaffiliated, as the nature of his experiments have found him kicked out of all the major universities, and his surgeries out of all the hospitals. He has even found his office in the slums ransacked by the locals. They didn't deem their infants as fit for research, and has taken an old hill house overlooking the cemetery as his hideout. The gravekeeper Lucky creaks him parts and pieces that he pays handsomely for with his independent wealth he inherited from his late father. There are even rumors he pays more when the subjects are recently deceased, while even still twitching perhaps.
As we leave Rattle's asylum, we enter the boardwalk. This is the boardwalk area, so in the back you have a view of some boats, and I terraformed it so it looks like they're in the water, and the wheat fields in front really bring that illusion together.
The boardwalk offers a lovely view and a relatively clean and safe stroll. For a bit. Travel too far east and you begin to notice changes for the worst. The stones begin to show stain of blood. Makeshift chamber pots of newspaper and feathers. You notice the smell before the sight. Fires blazing and oil drums. Whispers of madness and promises of a painful evening. A lateral descent into the slums. Beware, you have tread into hell.
This is a little rundown farm. I wanted to make it look kind of abandoned and added a lot of rusty items. As we walk down the street, we approach the orphanage. This is the main reception area. It's a little run down with the wallpaper, but I think the flooring is actually really nice and it really ties into the Victorian era. The room in the back is a classroom. This is the left room. Here we have the bathroom, and those simple panels really tie the room together. On the right room, we have the kitchen, and yet again, it's another rundown room. Upstairs is the dormitory bedroom area, so we have a lot of bunk beds, and some clothing, some buckets, lanterns. I really think the clotheslines bring this whole room together, and the little boxes and toys. Here we have an absolutely terrifying basement. I wanted to add a furnace. I wanted to add a lot of fire items, so when the lights were off, you could really see those glow. We're back into the streets of the slums. It would be so cool if we could use polishing effects outside, but since we can't, these oil barrel bathtubs and brick ovens add a really cool smoke effect. When I make markets like this, I try to make the streets as narrow as possible and jam as much furniture items into it, so when you walk down, you have this really cool effect and layering. Here we are in the next area. This is kind of inspired by Jack the Ripper, Whitechapel, Spitalfields, whatever. And again, I have a ton of kettle bathtubs for the smoke ambiance and fires. And on the left, I made a little bit of a thrift shop with some toys and knickknacks. And as you walk across, you can see some boats in the water. Now let's visit Pom Pom's house.
Pom Pom is an orphan who is quite skilled with a knife. Many a drunken paedophile, drawn by her whispered promises of a forbidden debauchery into a dark alleyway, has learned this fact after both their pockets and nether regions have been splayed open and emptied.
Let's make our way to the other orphan, Iggly.
Iggly is Pom Pom's partner in crime. Not without his devious plotting would the pair be so successful at cleaning out the pockets and veins of the ignorant bourgeoisie who strayed too far into the slums. His favorite pastime is enjoying a feast of blood sausage and mashed peas, as Pom Pom turns the groins of men into nearly the same.
Next to Iggly's house is Nook's Cranny. As you leave Nook's Cranny, you'll see an abandoned building made with simple panels and storefronts. Next to this building, you'll have a big lookout of the factory. You can also see some boats in the water. Let's make our way over to the factory area. I wanted the beach to kind of be a supply area, so it has lots of barrels and things you might find at the factory, but it's also very run down. Now we're officially in the factory. I wanted to add lots of layering, so I added in jail bars, castle walls, and to add a smoke effect, I added in some brick ovens and oil barrels.
The factory docks are a convenient place to dispose of the mangled corpses of workers whose last throes and flails of life were spent trying to tear their limbs out of the grinding and spiraling metal. The apathetic machinery hears not their screams and does not pause or stop. Like a death clock, the gears are wound to last indefinitely, long past the snippets of time experienced by now flattened mortal envelopes they squeeze lubrication from. The crabs and the beach are fat from the flesh, and the constant chum of human in the water has begun to attract even more sinister sea creatures.
Now we are leaving the factory and going back up the beach. Here we have another run-down, abandoned beach with lots of garbage, dead bodies, decayed trees, and rust. Now we're continuing down the beach and into the docks.
Any of the hardened and sturdy fish that manage to survive in the oil-slicked and stench rotten waters of the inlet of Griftwood are surely poison to consume. A final fact learned by many a desperate fool who happens to catch and cook one in desperation. A breed of multi-eyed spotted cod is rumored to be breeding in droves in the deepest trenches of the waters, an offspring of the fabled Leviathan, so swears Dockmaster Dobie.
Now we are approaching Dobie's house.
What comes in and out of the city's main port is seen by Dobie. In the many decades he has stood his post at the docks, he has seen much. Slaves drowned for insurance, starving children shipped away by hopeless parents. He swears he saw a Leviathan once, a tentacled monster so large it ripped into a two-masted schooner in the dead of night, sinking it. Dobie understands sickness. He has been sick his entire life, doomed to be brittle, cursed to cough. He sees the city is sick as well. That's why he understood, expecting a flailing, dying rat fallen out from a container on the newest ship, saw its skin crawling with fleas. And only he understood what that meant. And he smiled, and told no one. He approved the ship, and shook the hand of the captain, and asked the names of all of the crew, and made sure they always had docking priority when they came to Griftwood.
Next to Dobie's house, we have a place for his boat and supplies. Now we are entering the main port of the docks. There's a lot of natural water around the dock, but I did terraform a little strip of land so each boat can sit on its own dock. As we leave the dock, we have a little lookout of all the boats and the water. Now we are approaching the Posh City District. Over on this side, we have a nice bakery stall. And on the other side, we have the newspaper stand. Let's walk down this alleyway again and head towards the beach. The beach is a little marketplace, and on the right we have a stall with food and baked goods. And on the left we have a flower shop. There's also a cart to grab some balloons and pinwheels. All the way on the left of the beach, there's a little seating area. Over here, we have Muffy's house.
Muffy is Lionel's lover and a lady of the night. She is envious of the younger girls who tried to take over her territory, which she has proudly prowled since she was 13. As she has gotten older, the fear of being forgotten has birthed a burgeoning sadism in her that she takes out on anyone who dares to try and steal her Johns.
As we leave Muffy's house, on the right side, we have another plant shop. If you look up, you'll have a nice view of the trees. On the left of Muffy's house, you'll find an alleyway. This alleyway is lined with castle walls, plants, covered wagons, and street lamps. If you walk behind Muffy's house, you'll see a tree-lined street. But we are going to turn around and head towards Jack Hyde's house. Here you'll see his exquisite mansion with a large yard and fountain. So Jack Hyde is just my second player on this island, and there's not really too much of a story to his character. He's kind of a red herring, but I wanted to show you what his house looked like, so here's all the rooms. On the left of Jack's house is actually the graveyard and the entrance to the islands, so let's go to the right. Right next to Jack Hyde's house is Able Sisters. As you can see, Able Sisters sells some very elegant and expensive clothing. As we continue down the road, we approach Resident Services area. Up these stairs behind Resident Services, we have a little garden area. I wanted to make this very elegant, but also a little bit off-putting. You can see it's a little bit creepy, but still beautiful. As we walk down the stairs and to the left, we approach another section of the Posh city. Here's a little town square. We have lots of marketplaces and lots of villagers reside here. On the very left, we have Lionel's house.
Lionel is the constable, tasked with solving the killing spree, currently panicking the populace. Prostitutes disemboweled and vagrants flayed are nothing compared to the horrors Lionel sees when facing the withdrawal from his opium addiction. It makes him blind to the pressing fact that the depraved killer may be closer to him than he thinks.
Right behind Lionel's house, we have Lucy's house.
An nymphomaniac of the highest degree, Lucy would tire the devil himself. Familiar with the business of whoring, but only as a customer, she has taken an interest in the recent killings, as some of her favorite girls have been lost to the slaughter. Her theories are lost on deaf ears, as Lionel doesn't want to hear the truth, and his opiate den ramblings may have let the killer know that Lucy is on her tail.
As we leave Lucy's house, we are back in the main square. On the right, we have another beautiful city area surrounded with castle walls. I was going for Beauty and the Beast vibes. As we keep walking down the street, we'll approach Portia's house.
A conniving socialite, Portia takes pleasure in gossip, but only if the gossip is caused by her schemes. She uses the wealth of her traveling husband, who prefers the company of men to the touch of her bosom, to hire actors to perform her plays. Usually down on their luck, vagrants with nothing left to lose, they will say anything to the law and do anything of the sort for a bit of coin. The suicide of Lord Donovan just last week due to the scandal of his adultery. A woman paid off by Portia to seduce him. His wife's suicide just a few days after. Spurned on by the bloody revelation that the Lord has also committed acts with the family's beloved Cocker Spaniel. What a desperate man will do to a dog for a bit of coin. And he hasn't balked since.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Thanks so much to this amazing cast of characters. Here's a dream address if you want to check out my island, and check my description box for my Twitch link, Discord, and matching merch to this video. Thank you everyone, bye!